So, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to open this meeting. I thank Simone to give me this opportunity. I would have prepared something more formal to welcome you, but this morning we had a very challenging morning at the academia. As you know, the cultural heritage doesn't go together with the technicalities. So we had a meeting there with the two guys, the technicians and their technicians, to ensure that tomorrow everything will be smooth and okay. So it's a pleasure and an honor to have you all here for this ELEXIS event. I would be inclined to consider to read it as a sign, because we were discussing this morning during breakfast with Simone. The last ELEXIS in presence meeting we had was more than 3 years ago in Wien at the wonderful Austrian Academy. And we are now all here in presence again. And tomorrow we will have our meeting in another wonderful context, in another academia, the Accademia della Crusca, that, as you know, is the temple of the Italian language. And the Accademia dates back to 1583, and its mission was to maintain the purity of the Italian language. And Crusca means brand, and maintaining the purity of the language was considered similar to separating the bran from the wheat. And this is the metaphor, no? And the link with ELEXIS is clear. The first edition of the vocabulary of the Italian language was published by the academians in 1612. So it's I think that for ELEXIS, having this meeting at the academy is very symbolic. So, but I don't want to spoil more. You will see tomorrow directly with your eyes. For tomorrow, indeed, we organized 2 guided tours during our lunch. So we will divide ourselves into groups. One group will have lunch first, and the other group goes to visit the famous Sala delle Pale, which means bran showers, and then we will exchange. So tomorrow we will see how to organize ourselves in these 2 groups. But now I give the floor to Simone for other housekeeping messages.
Thank you. So, good afternoon from me. It's really, really good to see people in person again. In the audience, but there is also a large audience on YouTube, and I have 2 housekeeping items. One is for the people here, and one is for the people on YouTube. So tomorrow, we have arranged a transfer from this hotel to Accademia della Crusca. And you already received the information about it, but let me stress that again. We will not wait for you. So the first bus goes at 8, so 10 minutes past 8, and the other one goes 15 minutes past 8. The buses cannot be here long in the street, and we don't want the first bus to go empty and the second one full of people who will also stay outside the bus. So please be punctual tomorrow. It's just outside the Hotel Londra. We'll be waiting for you. Then the other item is YouTube crowd. So during the whole event, we will be accepting your questions, comments, whatever you want, on YouTube channel. And we have two quite long sessions. So the first one is today at the end of the meeting, and the second one tomorrow. The last session of the meeting, and this will be the whole questions and comments thing will be handled by Istok Kosum. So if you will just write on YouTube channel in the comments, and we'll handle it from there on. So these are the two items that I wanted to start with. And then I go to my presentation, the first one. So it will take quite a long time until the coffee break. I have to warn you, I have about 60 slides or something. So brace yourself. And this is what I'll try to present. So first, I will go quite a long time back, like 10 years, even more than 10 years. I will make it a bit personal, but I think there's a good reason for that, because the most important thing will come at the end. So what happens after the end of the project? So I have to begin 10 years back to get back to what will happen in the future. Then I'll talk about briefly what it is. So who are the people involved? What is the point, in fact? Then we will get to what was done. And in the last part, what will happen in the future with ELEXIS. So I would like to start with something that not many people here and out there are aware about. There was a proposal We can find that represent headwords automatically. We can find we can find words in news feeds. Already have something that looks like a dictionary, a proto-dictionary. So this was in this proposal. It was not accepted, obviously. But in the end, at least for me, it was really a nice trial, valuable experience. Basic ideas were there. And we had some really tiny, I would say, core community who wanted to do something like this. And the, let's say, institutional intersection between the Becker-the proposal and ELEXIS are these four institutions. Then, I will go back a bit just to show you the date. So, the 4th of April, we received the information it was not accepted. And in May, so 1 month later, a cost action was approved called European Network Lexicography, which would be 4 years long, and we had a kickoff meeting, so in the autumn of 2013. The grant holder was one of the institutions that were involved in the Becker-the proposal. And the final results are basically now also supported by ELEXIS. So we are keeping the web page alive. It's still interesting. So if you will take a look at it, there's a lot of nice content there. And in this, I have a, okay. It's really not good to hear oneself. So observations that were put in the proposal for the NL cost action is that what we see is that scholarly dictionaries are not so popular anymore. Let's put it like this. So what we can see is lack of common standards and solutions for retro-digitized dictionaries. So this was happening a lot at the time. You had a lot of dictionaries on the shelves. You want to put them in digital form. How do you do it? And there is a growing community and need to have something done with born digital dictionaries. So the ones that we knew in advance that will never be printed. And the last point is about, okay, so if you have everything digital, why don't you put this information together, not as an isolated item, even if it's digital? And so what were NL objectives? This is taken from the website. Wanted to do a European dictionary polter, which would basically show what is around in Europe, dictionary-wise, so scholarly, academic type of dictionaries. And at the end, this website was created, which is now also supported by ELEXIS, kept alive. So a lot of e-dictionaries and retro-digitized dictionaries, but this is the one that I really want to show. So it's not on the website, but it's in the proposal itself. So what we wanted to do also in NL. we wanted to create standards, how to encode and present dictionaries, how to show them to users through interfaces, how can we get information from corpora, information retrieval, and to create some kind of roadmap for e-lexicography and for linking. So all the things that were already in the back of the proposal were kept in the in this one, so in NL, but and there's an no, there's a but there is also the last point here. We wanted to find funding. This was also in the proposal. And this is how NL cost action was organized. So we had 4 working groups, they are called. One was about this dictionary portal. The other was about retro-digitized dictionaries. The third working group was innovative e-dictionaries, so born digital dictionaries. And the last one was about pan-European perspective, which is kind of like linking, which is like, do we have the common etymology, Latin or other stuff? So how can we actually put all these separated items together? And at the end, what we had is quite a big number of people there. So we had 285 members from 31 countries, 7 really nice meetings, all of them in person. A lot. So we had 34 short-term scientific missions, they are called. We organized 3 training schools, one about retro-digitization, then we had one in Ljubljana about innovative e-dictionaries, and the topic of that one was actually, can we, in the room, while the training school goes on, create an automatically created dictionary? So that's what it was about. And then the last one was about well, phraseology and stuff. Also 4 workshops. So there was quite a lot of work done, quite a lot of meetings, and at the end, some of our members really conducted a huge survey, which ended up in International Journal of Lexicography. It was published in 2019, and it's about the perception of dictionaries. So how does Europe actually see this item now in 2020, let's say 17? So at the end of this action, what did we have? Much larger community than there was at the beginning. Then we had much better knowledge of users, not users like, in the 90s or the 80s of the previous century, but now. Much better understanding of the possibility of innovation, and much better coverage of different fields of interest, like natural language processing, retro-digitization, digital humanities, and so on. So it seemed that we are kind of prepared for the thing that was also included in the proposal, developing collaborative funding applications. And already during the NL cost action, actually it was Toma Tasovac who spotted a really fitting call which was called Integrating and Opening Research Infrastructures of European Interest. And obviously, lexicography lacked such an infrastructure. So the opening date was back in, 7 years back. So it was a really long process. You see that the first deadline with a short abstract basically was in 2016, and it was approved. And then the real application was in March 17, and we got the results on the 23rd of August 17, approved. And now you see the date. The last meeting of NL Cost Action was 1 month later. And this is me presenting ELEXIS, well, what's that, 5 years ago. Now what you can also observe here is an important feature. These are automatic captions, which are now available. So this is how much technology changed in the meantime. I don't think we we imagined, like in 2017, that automatic speech recognition would work so well. So now everything, so I watched part of it, of the whole presentation, and it's nearly perfect. So it's like done deal. You don't have to do anything anymore with speech recognition. So what about lexicography? Well, I don't think I ever showed this, but when I was, going back to the past, let's say 5 years, I found a list of other infrastructures. We had a meeting in Brussels with all of them. And until that point, I didn't really realize, I think, how much infrastructural Europe is. So you have infrastructures for everything. And we were one of the 14 infrastructures. And the one that I like the most is the last. So if you are into cattle, you would have an infrastructure which is, has the best name, Smart Cow. And this one is finished by now. They had the last final conference on the 6th of April, and you can take a look for all of them. I mean, what they did, how they look like, what happened. The only one that is from humanities is research on religious studies, also finished now. So now I come to what ELEXIS as a project really is. So it started, there was quite a long process until the grant agreement was approved and everything else. So it started in February 18. Initially it was, we thought that it would last 4 years, but because of the COVID pandemic it was extended for 6 months. So we are now 1.5 months before the end of the project. And I wanted to, when I was thinking about this presentation, I really wanted to put names and faces to the project. This is not it yet. So we had a huge consortium, or we have a huge consortium of institutions. And I just wanted to show a bit what the combination is. So who are the institutions and people involved in the project? So first thing, obviously, data is needed. So we have partners with lexicographic data. partners from computational linguistics, having data and expertise, then partners with expertise in standardization, which was always, you know, from the first proposal on an important thing. Then digital humanities partners, and you also need the technology partners to be sure. So the consortium has 6 institutions that are kind of involved in national language description. So I won't go through them all. You can just take a look who they are. And this is taken from the proposal or the grant agreement itself. 2 institutions who have data, retro-digitized data, basically a lot of German dictionaries like Grimm and so on. Then 1 partner involved in multilingual lexicography, 1 that has regional variants described, and 1, well, we were quite involved in this production of born digital dictionaries from some time ago. So this is the partners with lexicographic data. So the partners from computational linguistics background and data are the ones that have resources like WordNet's, BabelNet, also Sapienza, and in one case we had a partner from computational linguistics and lexicography for Danish, and so on. Then, and this is something we will go into more detail tomorrow, partners who have some experience with standardization, particularly related to standards that were or are around and used in lexicography or computational linguistics, particularly for lexical resources like text encoding initiative, lexical markup framework, Ontolex Lemon, and so on, or work in ISO or OASIS. Then we had digital humanities partners, so the ones who are basically involved in the other big European infrastructure from digital humanities called DARAIA. And you can see them down there. And technology partners, so the ones that are involved in technologies like machine learning, data mining, artificial intelligence, language technologies in general, ontologies, word sense disambiguation, particularly important here, and so on. So these are the ones who were mentioned as technology partners. And now come the names and the faces. So we have a project management board of 17 partners, and us are here. So for those who are on YouTube, I can see them, most of them, here in front of me, except Tamas Varadi and Svetla Koeva and Thomas Burch. They couldn't come, unfortunately, because we have an overlap with Metaforum in Brussels, I think. It will be tomorrow, starts tomorrow. So they couldn't come here, but the rest of the project management board is basically here. And then we have the group which was responsible for carrying out the work itself, called the technical board. Well, there's me and Istok Kossam as our community manager. Then John McRae is also here, leading, basically, I would summarize it as the linking part. Toma Tasovac, leader of work package 5, basically about teaching and training that ELEXIS has to provide. Then Miloš Jakubicek, technical manager of the project, Karol Tiberius as the work package 1 leader. This work package was basically about dictionary data. And Roberto Navilli from Sapienza, work package 3 leader. Let's say that basically what work package 3 was about, word senses immigration, the NLP stuff. Tanja Visik, dissemination and outreach, and also just back from maternity leave, congratulations. And Bolette Sandford Pedersen at the end had a really tough job because work package 9 was about so-called transnational access, which means traveling. And in fact, nobody could travel for the last 2 years. So I'll talk about a bit more later. And this is not all. So we have the 2 bodies here in the middle, but we also included or tried to include many more institutions, which we call observers. And many of you, I think, are actually here and also following us on YouTube. And there is an important base here. So we said that we rely on the existing infrastructures, which is CLARIN and the DARIAH. And if I show you what the situation is with observers at the end of the project, altogether, partners and observers, we are 73 institutions. And basically, all European, I mean, at least official and regional languages in Europe are covered. So we have blind spots here. It's Belgium, probably because it's covered by France and the Netherlands. Bosnia and Herzegovina, which I consider my personal fail because I'm from that region and should find somebody who is involved in the creation of Bosnian dictionaries, which is a language. Now, and Kosovo and Moldova. So these are the how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 regions or states that are not involved in ELEXIS. All others are there. And if we take a look at the types of institutions that are involved, if we generalize a bit, it's language institutes and universities. Different type of language institutes, but still 28 of them, and then universities and some other like foundations and stuff. And you can take a look who they are on this website or URL that you have there. And before we go on to the program, I have 3 words for you. COVID-19 pandemic. And 2 images. It's really, for me, and I think for anybody else, it's really impossible to assess the impact of this pandemic on a project which was really about creating a community. So if you are stuck behind a computer for 2 years, it's really, really difficult to create a community. And this is what Monica mentioned before. just imagine that the last time we sat together in this way was more than 3 years ago. And for the technical management board, who is, you know, responsible for like daily work, the last time we met in person was in December 19. So it was really hard to do stuff. And just a comparison with, you know, there was the annual cost action was 4 years, and we had 34 STSM. So people traveled to other institutions, learned about things, and we were supposed to have 40 of them paid for by the European Commission. And what we managed to do is 16 of them were actually realized, with possibly some more now, but not more than half. So this has impact. You cannot deny that. And I will just say in a few words, I will try to summarize what the whole thing was about research-wise. So a lot of it, a lot of the effort was supposed to be creating the community, but there was also a lot of, well, a significant part of the budget was for research. And the basic idea was, you know, let's say that we have dictionary data here. If we make it open and make it available, then it can be used by very clever technologies that are available now. And these technologies can do a lot with other types of data like corpora, and it can come back into lexicography, creating a virtuous cycle. So this is what the research part of ELEXIS was about. And I will not basically say more about that because the program itself should show, I think, first, which part of the cycle is covered by which application or service or tool. And well, if we succeeded in the end. And today, after coffee break, we will have the first part of the presentations of these tools and services. It will be about dictionary conversion, dictionary editing, dictionary publication online, and dictionary evaluation. And then we'll have the last half an hour for your questions and the discussion. Tomorrow, we will present tools that are used for dictionary linking, dictionary post editing. Then there will be a part about the corpora and word sense disambiguation and other tools that were developed for support of the whole lexicographic process, like gamification, crowdsourcing, and things like that. And we will have a session about the curriculum, so teaching and training. That's the work package 5. And after that, we'll have a session on standardization. And the last one will be about post-ELEXIS and sustainability. And we'll have, at the end, we'll have an hour, I think, basically about the sustainability issues. Now I come to the last part of my presentation, which is still not so short. So what will happen with ELEXIS? We already know. Let's say that there are known knowns. So the project ends on the 31st of July 22, and we don't have a situation that we had, for instance, in the iterations, at least I'm not aware of. So there is no further direct funding for what was developed here. And the sketch engine access, which was an important part, successful one, I think, ended already. We know that new tools and services that will be presented today and tomorrow will be maintained by Slovenian CLARIN center that we have. So also receive funding for that. And with possible help from other CLARIN centers, I will talk about that more tomorrow. And obviously the software itself will continue to be available on GitHub repository, so nothing will go away immediately. And we will also, this is what we plan to do, to change the look of the ELEXIS website a bit, so it will be less, the main page will be less project-like, and it will be more infrastructure-like. So basically it will be a description of what is available, what kind of tools, what can you do with them, and so on. So I have one slide about the CLARIN Knowledge Center that is already in the pipeline, let's say. But I will explain, as I said, also more tomorrow. So what happened already is that we sent an email to partners and observers mailing list in April this year, and we asked, okay, so if you think this knowledge center is a good idea, then please join us in this application. I can say that we would actually apply for it if nobody responded. But there was quite good response. We have 14 institutions now in the application, and 46 experts who are, in the application by name. And now the application is under consideration. And this is probably the most important part of my presentation today. So we had, there was a lot of problem with the question, what can we do after? So how can we? And we were looking at different options. I will also talk about it more tomorrow in the post-ELEXIS session. So what was considered and stuff. But in the end, we just decided at JSI, so George Stefan Institute, we will try with as lightweight as possible, some kind of agreement for those who simply would like to continue with what was done in ELEXIS. So initially without any funding, without any, real detailed program and so on, just the intention. So I would say it's an expression of interest in this association. And what is defined there in the in this document, it's the basics. So what the aims are, some basic governance, and administration. And I think this will be stressed quite emphatically, let's say. So it's basically for those who would like to be actively involved in development. It's not just so it's not an association, at least in my opinion, where you would be just looking at stuff, doing nothing. So it's the core group who wants to continue with basically, you know, that's why I went back 10 years with the ideas that were created back then. Obviously, we would search also for funding. And I have to, well, let me put it like this. A lot of things in these 2 years went kind of, you know, in a rabbit hole. So they were presented but disappeared. And one very important thing, at least for me, is the Lawrence workshop. You see when you see the dates. It was in November 19. So like a few months before everything stopped. And at that workshop, all these ideas that I mentioned before were developed further, and there is a document and there is a presentation. Which was, so the presentation, Chris is here. Very good. So the presentation is available. You can take a look at it now. You can take a look at the document itself, which is on the Dutch Language Institute website. I think the basics of these associations are there. So I would consider it as a kind of, you know, initial document for what could be a plan in this association. I will just go briefly through the document, through the articles. One is the obvious. Then you have the objectives. So these objectives could be changed, could be, you know, made better. Let's say that basically it's about what we do is lexicography. What we also do is everything that is in NLP or, you know, in technology that is related to lexicography. And what we would like to do is to exchange data, develop tools and services, exchange expertise, so knowledge, and also organize conferences and do all the activities that are related to what we want. And there's basically an article which says everything else than this will be defined later. But as I said before, probably based on this document that I mentioned earlier. So as far as the governance is concerned, it's as simple as possible. Each institution would have one representative. They would decide who will run this body. He or she will decide who is his or her deputy. And basically everything is decided with a majority vote. Okay, so that's the one about the president. And well, we have to meet at least once a year, obviously. Who wants to become a member? It's a bit like the case with observers in ELEXIS. So there would be an application, and the board would decide if you are eligible as a member of this. And that's kind of also an important part. Somebody has to do some basic administration. That would be us. So we would keep the address list and things like that. And JSI would basically require a yearly fee for these services. It can be a small amount, but we need to understand that some administration has to be paid. And then there is this legal part where no director would sign that we would actually create a new legal body, so we don't want that. And this is what it says here. And this is the last slide, I think. So what I'll do now is the following. During the coffee break, which follows now, I will send you this document. So I will send it to the mailing list of ELEXIS partners and observers. Okay, so now we start the second session today. So apparently I have to hold the microphone very close to my mouth, and I hope that everybody can hear me now. We'll have 4 presentations, just one after the without questions, and all the questions for all the presenters today will be in the last session, so the questions and discussion session. And we will have 4 pieces of software presented. One is Electrifier, Lexonomy, Publix, and Eddy. And we start with Electrifier.
So my name is Andras Ripar, and I will briefly present this tool that we call Electrifier. But before I start, just want to maybe clarify a bit what was my role in this project. So I was, in a way, like a project manager or a coordinator of people developing this tool. We had a total of 7 people. Okay, we had a total of 7 people working, so developing the tool at some point in the past 3 years. So my role was to coordinate between them and facilitate the development. So I know a lot about all the different aspects of the tool, but not everything. So if you would require very detailed answers about a certain aspect of the tool, then I would have to take your question and get it to the developers and then get back to you. So now let's start properly. So Electrifier is a tool that allows lexicographers and other users, of course, to do 2 things. To transform 2 types of dictionaries. So one is like legacy XML dictionaries in various different types of XML formats, and these can be then transformed into a common format based on TI-LEX0 and the ELEXIS data model. And the other type of transformation is PDF dictionaries, so where we take PDF dictionaries and transform them into this same format. I can perhaps already answer this question, which maybe some of you have. So why do we need Electrifier? Well, basically, everyone who knows how to write code can, of course, write a simple, fairly simple, or maybe not so simple, script that converts one type of XML to another XML. But, of course, not everyone can write code. Most lexicographers, at least from what I've learned, don't know how to write code. So this tool allows them to do this without relying on computer scientists and developers. Let's first talk about the XML transformation. So there are 2 basic concepts that I want to mention. The first is what we call a selector, which is a rule that allows us to select 0 or more elements in the input XML tree. We support XPath select, so the elements are selected based on the XPath expressions. And then once we select these elements in the original XML, we have another rule that we call a transformer, which takes the elements that we selected and transforms them into whatever we want to transform them to based on the ELEXIS data model. Here on the right-hand side, you can see like a JSON specification of the transformation. So this is what's built behind the user interface. This is then an input into the transformation script, which returns the transformed dictionary. So the XML transformation, of course, allows you to select elements with XPath, and then you can also exclude certain paths. So maybe you want to take all the elements called translation, but then you want to exclude elements that have like example, and then inside the example have a translation. So you want to exclude that, you can do that. So And then you can also combine different paths. So let's say you have two different, in the original XML, you have two different elements for sense, maybe sense 1 and sense 2. You can combine those into one sense. You can also select attributes of these elements. There is support for regular expressions, so you can run regular expression over the texts that are selected. You can also move elements within the tree and so on. So here on the right-hand side, again, you can see some examples of various types of these transformers, some quite complex, some more simple. But I don't think we have time to explain all this. We can maybe talk about this at the end. And then, of course, this is still fairly complex for a regular user. So we developed a user interface where there was this, of course, this trade-off between this complexity and flexibility, which allows you to transform all different kinds of XML. And then on the other hand, you have a user-friendly interface, which if you include too much of this complexity, then you have something that's difficult to master and to understand. So Carol will show the demo later, so I will not go into details about how the interface works. Some challenges that we encountered. So over the past year, when we started transforming more and more of the dictionaries provided by the partners and observers, one quite significant task was how to work with, what we called non-well-formed input dictionaries. We found dictionaries where there were some comments, there were some weird characters, there were some strange encodings and stuff like that. And this took quite some time because you have to find what's wrong, why the dictionary doesn't process, and so on. So the basic requirement for the input dictionary would be that the dictionary has to be well-formed, which I can admit maybe not be the most informative, but that's kind of the way it is. The other thing that we had issues with was the size of the dictionaries. On the one hand, the size of the individual entries, because when we do the transformation, we displayed one entry, and these apparently can be quite long, so long that it can affect the performance of the app. So we had some issues around that. And also in general, the files, some of the dictionaries are of course quite large, and it can take quite some time to process them, especially if you have a complex transformation. Okay, so this was about the XML module, and now let's move on to the PDF transformation. So the important thing to stress here is that Electrifier supports transformation of editable PDFs, and what I mean by this is you have to be able to select the text and copy it. So locked PDFs or scans or images are not supported. So with scans or images, you need to first run OCR in a separate application, and then you can work with that. PDF transformation works on a machine learning setup. So users need to annotate a sample of the dictionary. Usually around 4 pages is a good sample. And then the algorithm tries to apply the annotations to the whole dictionary. The core element set is a bit simplified compared to the XML dictionaries. So there is a bit less elements to select. And so this is the basic workflow of the PDF transformation. So when the PDF dictionary is uploaded, we convert it to an XML format based on this open source tool, and then this goes to Lexonomy, to a custom module of Lexonomy with for annotation. On the right-hand side, you can see that. So you can select different parts of the text and assign the elements. And once this is done, we run machine learning. Basically, it works on a 3-level the three-level structure, so pages, and then entries, and then senses. So we construct models, so recurrent neural network models for all the three levels. And the features that we use are, so for every token in the converted PDF, so we have font, so the type of the font size, whether it's bold or italic, then the new line character is used as a feature, and the actual content of the token. So these are the features that are used by the machine learning algorithms. So on the dictionaries that we used for testing, the F1 scores were quite good. So in general, over 90%. But of course, the quality of the transformation can depend obviously on the type of the dictionary that we start with. So if you don't have any different fonts, different font sizes, stuff like that, so then it's of course difficult for machine learning to work well. After this is done, the users can get a preview of what the algorithm generated, and then finally there's also the option to map parts of speech element to the universal dependency tag set. And we also added a module for character mapping. This is because when you convert some type of PDFs into this initial XML format, some characters can get corrupted. So this allows users to map the corrupted characters to what they actually want to see in the final file. And then, yeah, you can download the converted dictionary. So to conclude, Electrifier is available at this URL address. There are GitHub repositories, one for the front end, one for the back end. Inside the back end repository, you can find the code for the XML transformation and the code for the machine learning.
Can you hear me? Yes? Oh no, hold on. Can I go back to that? We need to go back to the presentation.
The presentation slideshow.
Sorry. Next slide. Yes, so I will now give a short demo of Electrifier, and I will focus on the XML conversion. I'm not going to talk about the PDF conversion. If you're interested in the PDF conversion, or if you have got more questions than we can answer today, then I would say please join the ELEXIS workshop at EUROLEX 2022 on the 11th of July, where we will have more time to go into depth of both the XML and the PDF conversion. And Andras and I also thought it might be useful to have a question and answer session later today after the session, this afternoon session has finished. Because some of you may be interested to see their data in Electrifier and see how we set up the transformation for that. Okay, so I think now I need to go to Electrifier. Okay, so when you start, well, Andras just told you where you can find Electrifier, app.electrifier.elex.is. You first need to log in. I've already done that. And then you come to the opening screen and you need to either choose the XML conversion or the PDF conversion. As I said, we're going to do the XML conversion and we're going to look at a small sample dictionary containing 2 entries from the global French-Portuguese dictionary from K Dictionaries. And as Andras just said, oh, can you go?
Scroll down.
You need to scroll. Sorry, it's not my laptop. Simon, you will need to scroll. I want to scroll down. Well, we'll skip that. I'll just do what we have. Okay, so you have 2 options, as Andras just told you. You can upload a dictionary or you can pull from CLARIN. You just can't read that now. But it doesn't matter. Can I maybe set it smaller? No.
Just, yeah. Oh,
No.
you can't see
Can I make it control?
It doesn't work.
Okay, but not to worry. I hope I will not need to scroll too much. So the uploaded dictionary is just for testing out because the number of entries that you can upload is limited. So when you've got your full data set and you want to, then you first need to upload it to the CLARIN repository and then pull the data from CLARIN. But let's start. Let's assume we want to create, here I can scroll. Oh, but I can't see the bottom of the screen. Can you? What is Control minus? Is that this? Well, at the bottom of the screen, I could create a new, oh no, okay, upload a dictionary. You click on upload a dictionary. You choose your dictionary. I've already chosen one which is on the desktop. So that is sample dictionary.xml. This is also the sample dictionary which is part of the Electrifier course which will be available in the ELEXIS curriculum. So you simply click on open and then you fill in some metadata, but if you pull from CLARIN you don't have to do this. You need to choose and then you need to specify 2 elements already in the, so let me do this because otherwise it's not clear. Sample dictionary, open, you give it a title, you give it an acronym which is used in the IDs. You can specify the publisher and then you already need to specify the basic backbone of your transformation. You need to say which element in the input corresponds to the entry element. That's here very simple, that's entry. And then head word is also simple, and you give it a transformation name, and then you can create, and it will process quite quickly. So let's go to what we've already uploaded. So then, once your dictionary is uploaded, you will see this screen. You'll see at the top of your screen, you see the preview of the input data, and at the bottom of your screen, you see the initial transformed data, and that looks a bit unreadable, but you can strip the namespaces, which are kept from the original data, so that's easier for easy identification, whether your transformation is correct, and you can strip the dict scrapped, and then it's already a lot more readable. We should actually start from this one, because this only has got the entry and the lemma which have been transformed. And then you can gradually start completing your transformation. And you do that by selecting the elements from the core element list. One thing, you also need to set the sense, because sense is part already, but it's set to a dummy, so you need to set it to sense, I think it's sense group here. And then, and as you can see, where the /
Shift 7.
Shift 7. Does it? Hold on. Sense block, sense group. Hold on. Oh, sense group it should have found it. Sense group and then. Okay, so yeah, if you type, it already identifies whether it finds it, and you can simply click update every time, and then you get the message that your transformation is successful, and if it's not successful, you know where the error is. So then you can gradually start adding elements, and I think I will just add briefly definition. Definition is fairly simple. You see in the input data, definition is here, also called definition. Then you still need to map it because the computer doesn't know this by itself. And you see it finds already definition, you update, and then hopefully definition is added here at the bottom of your screen. Oh. You've got the form already, and you've got the definition and another definition, 2 sentences. Obviously, these are specifically chosen entries, boire and café, because that's something I hope to do a lot here in Italy, because the coffee is much better than in the Netherlands. So definition was simple, and then you can gradually add all these core elements, and as you can see for this particular sample dictionary, that's not very difficult. I just want to show you one thing more, that's the part of speech, because that's slightly more advanced. You see that the part of speech is in the input in an attribute value. So we still specify the element that it's in, part of speech. And then we need to specify underneath that it's the value of an attribute value that we are interested in, and you need to specify which attribute it is, and in this case it's a value. And then once you have selected that, it will, does it automatically load the part of speech elements, and these part of speech elements are important to do the mapping to the universal dependencies. So it's recommended that you, when you use the Electrifier, that you do this mapping, and yes, I've managed. And obviously here it's, oh, I'm not going to succeed to just select noun here. But you select noun, you map it to noun in this case, and verb, and you map it to verb, and then you update your transformation, and then, yeah, it is successfully transformed. And let me just see if I've not forgotten anything. Yes, and for XPath, of course, for those who are not familiar with XPath, I'm already saying a little bit about the curriculum of tomorrow. There's also a course on XPath in the curriculum that will help lexicographers to use Electrifier. But yeah, in general, it's a very easy to use interface because you see immediately what's happening. And if, yeah, it doesn't find, and it also gives you suggestions of the XPath that you should use. Then I think, yeah, finally, the last thing is the export. So when you have finished, you can download your data. And then you've got 2 options, with namespaces and without namespaces. And the one without namespaces is the one that you should choose if you want your data to be used within the rest of the ELEXIS infrastructure. So that was all for, yeah, the demo for Electrifier. And yeah, questions later in this session and after the afternoon session for those who have more questions.
Yeah. So that was Electrifier.
Yeah.
If you remember, so data has to come somehow into the virtuous cycle, and this is how it comes. So it has to be the same model, and that's what Electrifier does. And now we'll go to Lexonomy, and I have to talk a bit more while Adam is being equipped with a microphone. And now we are ready, I guess. So a very important piece of software, Lexonomy. So online editor and API.
Hello everyone, I would like to show you, not sure if, I hope that everyone at least tried Lexonomy or have seen some demo, but let's start with a short overview. So Lexonomy is an open source and free and online platform for writing and publishing your dictionaries. And you can easily create your own dictionary. you can create the dictionary from scratch, or you can use a template. There will be templates for both formats that are like created during ELEXIS project, so TEI Lex 0 and DM Lex. And then you can also customize the structure of your entry and formatting for each part of your entry. And based on the entry structure and formatting, the entry editor is automatically updated. And here you can see one of the basic editing, which closely reminds you of the XML file, but you can also change the editor. Of course, you don't have to work on your dictionary alone. You can add more users with various roles, like someone can just view the dictionary, someone can help you editing, or have the administration role. And when you're done, you can publish your dictionary for everyone. And you can also add a description for this public preview. And here is the example how publicly published dictionary may look like. And you can also get a list of all public dictionaries from the Lexonomy website. And it's possible to share also the source XML files, not just the preview version. Okay, so and then there is much more things that you can customize in your dictionary. You may want to display something else than just a head word in the entry list. Usually it's part of speech, or you can even add translation, as you can see on this example. So it's for bilingual dictionaries, you can add the source and target head word. And of course, you can use any language and any character set for your dictionaries, for sorting, for storing information. You've seen the XML style editor, and then you can also choose more user-friendly editor, and then the new one, which will be finished in a few days or weeks, which is even more user-friendly than previous one. Or if you're not happy with the default editors in Lexonomy, you can create your own in JavaScript. And this, for example, as you saw in Electrifier, is just a completely customized editor in Lexonomy. And similarly for viewing, you can customize the preview completely with CSS and XSLT. If you already have some dictionary or defined dictionary structure, you don't need to click through all the options in Lexonomy to create your entry structure. You may import DTD or RelaxNG schema, and the editor is based on that schema. Okay. So these were like the basic functions and options for customization in Lexonomy. And then there are a few advanced features which you may or may not use. Lexonomy supports flags for entries, and this means that you can define labels in your dictionary, and is usually used for progress tracking or management of the dictionary. You may assign labels to each entry saying if it's finished or in progress and stuff like that. It's also completely customizable. And then another important feature for ELEXIS are the links across dictionaries. You may link dictionary in Lexonomy to any other dictionary stored in Lexonomy. You may link different parts of an entry. You may, for example, link a head word in one dictionary to particular sense in another dictionary. These links can be created manually, or you can use some tool to create links automatically. Currently, there is a Nash tool, which you will also hear about, and this one is used for monolingual links, and then BabelNet is used for multilingual linking. Okay, then another very useful feature is our subentries. Probably you've met in some dictionary that you have some parts of entry that you would like to share between several entries. For example, some example collocation that you would like to include in several entries. So you don't need to repeat that collocation every time. You just write it the first time, and then you can reuse this collocation several times. And when you decide to change the text, it is automatically updated in each entry. For multimedia, you can insert images, audio files, and video files, and then in preview, these are displayed correctly, like with video player, for example. There is also an option to search for images in online services like Wikipedia or Google Image Search. You just edit your entry, click on an icon, and you are presented with the best images for your head word from several services, and you can choose the one that you like. For some supported languages, there is also an option to add automatical text-to-speech for the head word, so you don't need to record pronunciation for all your head words, and you can just get this automatically. And then, of course, you can get information from corpora. You can connect sketch engine corpora or context. For directly from the editor, you can get a list of examples, collocations, definitions based on the corpora you use, and you can easily just select the examples that you like and include them in your entry. Okay, so apart from just the graphical interface, there is also an API in Lexonomy to support connection to other resources. First of them, which was originally used for one-click dictionary, which will be presented tomorrow, is the API for external services to create a new dictionary in Lexonomy and to add entries automatically. So you can create a service on your site, creating entries, and then just store them directly to Lexonomy. Of course, there is also an API for cross-dictionary links, and it supports more options than just through the user interface, because we wanted to keep the interface, the graphical interface, simpler. So if you need more options, then you can use the API. And of course, Lexonomy supports the ELEXIS API for dictionaries, which is published on ELEXIS website. And using this API, which is common for all dictionary services, you can list dictionaries, find entries, and of course, read entries in XML or JSON formats based on TEI, Lex 0. And okay, that's it. If you want to try Lexonomy for yourself, or even install it at your own institution, have a look at one of these links and you can get more details there. Thank you. thank you. And the questions later, I guess.
Yeah, questions later. Thanks, Adam. Now we go to our next presentation. Anne-Claire
First one.
from the Trier Center for Digital Humanities.
Thank you.
And it's about publishing. So it's not editing, it's publishing.
Right.
If you have a dictionary basically in TEI, then you will be able to just put your dictionary online in the
Right.
ELEXIS infrastructure.
So, you can hear me? Yes. So yes, my name is Anne-Claire, and I'm now presenting our tool Publix, which we developed in Trier at the Trier Center for Digital Humanities. Yeah, and so first some little information about us. The Trier Center for Digital Humanities exists already for 25 years. And since the beginning, digital lexicography has been a research focus. And there was the German dictionary of the Brothers Grimm with more than 30 volumes. That was one of our first major projects. And in our Wörterbuchnetz on the web, we give access to more than 30 legacy dictionaries. The center was and also is part of different national and international projects, such as the cost action ENEL that we heard about, ZSLex and Text Plus. And recently, we started to work on the cross-linking of dictionaries and editions. Right, and this is the ELEXIS team in Trier, which worked on Publix. There are Thomas Bursch and Claudia Bamberg, who are managing the project, Julia Hennemann, who created the design, and Sandra Weyand, who is our software developer, and myself being responsible for tool testing and developing the user manual. Yes. And now we come to the tool itself. And first of all, yeah, what is Publix? What can you do with Publix? And in short, you can say Publix is a software that allows you to publish your own XML dictionary data on the web. And anyone who has XML dictionary data can use Publix. It is necessary that you know your data, especially how it is annotated. But apart from that, you don't need any special technical skills because Publix doesn't need to be installed. It is accessed and operated via the web browser. And you also don't need any memory capacity because the data is stored and published on a provided server. Yeah, here you can see a little overview. You can say that in the publication of Publix, there are 3 basic steps from the data to the publication. First, there is the upload of data and the submission of metadata. Second, which is the core of Publix, it's determining the styling of the rules, of the entries by rules. And third, the publication of the dictionary. And now we can have a look on the different steps in a bit more detail. The data upload works by importing the data from a Git repository. And as you can see here, Publix asks the user for information about the repository URL, the branch name, and the directory where the files are stored in. Then the user has the option of providing metadata to the dictionary, such as the dictionary title, a field where you can type in a dictionary description, you can provide an associate web address, and you can choose from a list of dictionary categories, such as general language dictionary, multilingual dictionary, historical language dictionary, and so on. And this metadata will later appear with the published dictionary. Yes, now we come to the heart of Publix, the styling rules. The next step is to define how the dictionary entries should be presented in the published version. And for this, rules are defined for individual XML elements. So when importing the data to Publix, Publix captures all the different tags, attributes, and attribute values the dictionary is annotated with. And when creating a rule, the user is shown all the options in a drop-down menu, as we can see here. And you might only, for one rule, you might only choose an element tag without further specification, or you can specify it by an attribute, or additionally, you might also define which values this attribute should have. And each styling rule defines several properties. First, there are some kind of meta settings. There's the possibility to hide certain text content. Then you would have to deactivate the checkbox display text on website. Then you specify whether the XML tag is supposed to be a search category and whether the text content should be added to the lemma list or not. And we will see later how this looks like. Yes, and then there secondly are some settings that are defining the typography of the text. One can define the font style, the font size, the font color, or whether sub or superscript, text indent, letter spacing, and so on should be applied to the text. And then we have the dictionary preview, where we can see how the rules are implemented and how the entries are presented in the published version. And here you can see on the left, the lemma list, and in the middle, the dictionary lookup above, and below an example for a styled entry. Publix offers three search options: the lemma list search, a full text search, and an advanced search. And here we have the lemma list. And to appear in the lemma list, there has to exist a styling rule that specifies this for a certain XML element. So let's assume you want to list all the keywords here in the lemma list, as it's usually the case. You will define in the styling rules that the content of form type lemma is supposed to be added to the lemma list. And you can search the lemma list by using the search field above. And clicking on an item on the lemma list displays the corresponding dictionary entry. Then there's a general full text search, which searches the entire entries. And an advanced search, which offers also a full text search and search options in all those information fields. The checkbox set a searchable field has been activated, as we saw before in the styling rules. And you can add search fields by clicking on the plus button, and all those search fields are linked with the logical operator and. Yeah, after its publication, the dictionary appears on a page with all previously published dictionaries by Publix. And in addition, each published dictionary can be accessed directly via its own URL. So now some other important information where to find Publix. Currently, it can be accessed via publix.uni-trier.de, and soon it will be accessible under the official ELEXIS subdomain. And we also created a user manual which will be published on Daria campus. Yeah, looking at the various ELEXIS tools, Publix is to be classified under the task publication, obviously. And yeah, it can, for example, be used together in a pipeline with the Electrifier, which we've just learned about. So, for example, if you have a printed dictionary that you want to publish on the web, you have the possibility to scan the dictionary, to use an OCR software, and then using the Electrifier to create an XML with Lex0. And this XML files you might upload to Publix and then define the styling of the entries and finally publish the dictionary with the help of Publix. A little look into the future, what happens next. Of course, we are going to maintain Publix, and there will be some bug fixes, and probably Sandra will also develop some new features. And Trier also becomes a partner of the CLARIN Knowledge Center. Of course, you can contact us on our Publix homepage. You will find some more information about Publix. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us. For technical questions, you can contact Sandra Weyand, or if you have questions about the application of Publix, you also can contact me, or just come to me in Florence and ask, or ask your questions later in the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So, questions, as we said, later.
After this last presentation, Lenka. Oh.
Thank you.
From Vienna, the Austrian Academy, about evaluating dictionaries. Can we do it?
Where is this? Sorry, how do I cannot see the share.
F5, maybe?
No. It doesn't, like, it has no options. Maybe sign in. Thank you. So, hello everyone, my name is Lenka and I will be presenting the work done mostly by my colleague and myself from the Austrian Academy of Science. Seung-Bin is unfortunately not here with us today, but I'm very happy to say that he was a great colleague on this work. So EDI is the ELEXIS dictionary evaluation tool, but as you will see during this presentation, in the end it's mostly a profiling tool, and you will see what is the difference between the two and why we have opted to go for profiling. So the main reason is that EDI is supposed to be used by a numerous possible end users and in various applications. And in this sense, it is impossible to create an evaluation tool that will be context-free, because we cannot have any assumptions regarding what kind of application the user will want to use the dictionary in the end. So we cannot really, we don't know their priorities, we don't know what they aim for, so we cannot give an evaluation which is qualitative in a sense that we say this dictionary is good or bad, because of course the evaluation would depend mostly on their needs. So we decided to leave the evaluation itself to the end users and create a tool that will help them to get to this evaluation quicker. So something that will help them get statistics and information about the dictionary structure, and then they could use this information to compare relevant dictionaries and choose the best one for their purpose. So whenever in this presentation I use evaluation or assessment, it's not qualitative evaluation in a sense to say, okay, this is a 5-star dictionary and this is a 4-star dictionary, because as we all know, we cannot really give this kind of grading. So, oh, okay, this arrow kind of flew away. But yeah, EDI is located within the ELEXIS infrastructure. So it is, the dictionary matrix is available using a REST API. And this is also how EDI accesses data from the dictionary matrix, and also how it will give the report, the end report. So when the user wants to access a dictionary from the dictionary matrix or upload their own, they can get it evaluated using EDI. So because the evaluation process can take a long time, if you want to go through thousands of entries, for example, we have decided to do the evaluations automatically when a dictionary is uploaded, so they would be available on demand for users. So it will be a lot quicker, hopefully. So here you can see the REST interface of ELEXIS, and you can see where the EDI dictionary evaluator fits in. So I will just run through this slide. Regarding the implementation, again, I have to extend my thanks to Seung-Bin and also John McRae, who helped us a lot with the technical stuff. The EDI is implemented as a Python project, and yeah, it is accessible through a REST API, and it provides a JSON output report. Here you can see sort of the model architecture, and you can see that there are several evaluators. Well, I don't know if you really see it, but you can trust me. So there are entity evaluator, metadata evaluator, and an aggregated evaluator. So they cover 3 different levels of evaluation. So the entry-level evaluator, this is concerning the content of the dictionary. So it is really supposed to represent the content and the structure of individual entries in one structure using the entry model. Then metadata is, of course, on the dictionary level, so it is assessing just the metadata per dictionary. And then you have something which is evaluation within context, which is supposed to provide comparison for a particular dictionary within a corpus. So now I will talk a little bit about each of these. Content evaluation, so first, what we need to know is that the dictionaries can be in different formats within the dictionary matrix. So entries have to be represented. I mean, the entry model has to be able to assess different formats and assess if they are complete and how accurately they are structured. So this is just the format stuff. But then, of course, you have the data itself from the dictionary, so definitions, lemmas, examples, pronunciation, examples of usage, etc. And all of this is modeled by the entry class. So the idea is basically that the system iterates through all of the entries and in the end creates a statistical overview which would show you the structure, the granularity, sense granularity, and it will show the user what they can expect, what kind of information they can expect from an average or a typical entry in this dictionary. So the metrics that we use for entries are, as you can see here, some examples. For example, number of senses or number of examples per sense or stuff like this. So this is something so the user can quickly see what they can expect in a dictionary. So then we go to the metadata evaluation. So this is a bit tricky because you cannot really automatically evaluate or even assess quality or accuracy of the metadata. So we could only really stick with the completeness. This is the only assessment that it can be automatically provided if some data is missing or it's present. We wanted to cover recency and availability and so licenses and this kind of stuff, ownership. We think this is very important for the future users. But again, there is really no way to assess if this is true, the information which is provided. So you can only say, okay, we know the license, we know the owner, or we don't know the owner, basically. And then finally, we come to this, which we call aggregated evaluation, or within context. So the idea behind this topmost level of evaluation was to create a way to compare dictionaries. So you could say, I'm interested in terminological dictionaries of Bulgarian, and then you could create this corpus. You have a corpus of these dictionaries, and within them you can kind of see, okay, this is the newest, this is the oldest, this is the biggest. But again, this is not saying that any one of them is better or worse, but you can see within a certain context, within something which is relevant for you. So for now, we only use language and genre to create this category. And then within the category, you can see this is just this really basic sample visualization of what we kind of have in mind. So you could see, okay, this is the smallest dictionary has 80 entries, and the biggest has 1,000. And here is your sample is kind of here. So you can see, okay, it's a little bit below average. And hopefully this would provide users some useful insight into how their dictionary ranks within the relevant category. So yeah, as I said, Eddie supplies you with an end report, which is in JSON. And this end report consists of the statistics about entries, also errors. So if you have something like this, invalid parts of speech, or as they mentioned previously, XML can sometimes have erroneous tags or something like this, weird formatting, weird structure. So these kind of errors are always in the end report. Missing data, meaning the missing metadata. So again, just the completeness evaluation. And we want to add a visual component, which would be the simple graphs as you've seen, maybe some scatter plots or bar graphs, which would again help the user sort of see all of this, but in a nicer way, not read through the big JSON file. So yes, to conclude this short presentation, we designed a dictionary evaluation tool, which is actually a profiling tool, and it's aimed to help the user make their own evaluation based on their needs. We focus on evaluating entries and the metadata, and also create some in-context evaluation. And the future work would include a graphical user interface. So yes, thank you. You can look at our publications and the code.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You can stay here,
Yep.
because
We're getting questions.
now we have
Thank you.
questions. So I would like to ask also everybody else who presented to come back on the stage to receive your applause in the end. But first we need to answer some questions. Istok, did you send me the link to... Sit down, sit down, sit down. Will no, it's Carol, it's Carol. So you send me to which email? Istok, to which email was sent? Okay. request access. So what we did is Easter collected questions on YouTube channel, and we will see questions from people who follow us on YouTube. And in a second, request access, give access, please. No. Did you get the email? Yeah? Now you have second request sent. You just have to give access to my... Okay, it's not working. Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing. All right. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so what we have... I'll zoom a bit. Okay, so we have one question, which is for Electrifier. So that's you too.
Okay, yeah, I think this is possible. Yeah, you would need to use regular expressions to. Maybe. Yeah, but you would need to replace them, right? Yeah. Yeah, I would need to check this. I know it's possible to strip them, but if you need to replace them, then yeah, maybe not. Yeah. Yeah, you can send a sample to us. There is an email address at the in Electrifier. So electrifier.ijs.si, and yeah, we'll have a look.
I think this will be a general answer. Just send us the sample, and that's it. Okay. Do we have any questions on? Yeah. Publix. Okay. So that. Do we have both microphones working?
This works? No.
1, 2.
Okay. Hello? Does it work? Yes. First have to read the question. I think you have to make sure that you have the copyrights first when using your data with Publix and then publishing it. So we don't take any responsibility. So we have, in many times, the dictionaries are historical dictionaries that don't have any copyrights anymore. Or if you have data which belongs to someone else, you first have to make sure that you are allowed to publish the data. Yeah.
That's a very general answer. You need to own something that you want to use, usually. So it's, sorry, yeah.
Hi. So maybe in line with this question, in the window that you showed about the metadata when you create and Publix, was that complete? Is that everything that you have regarding
Yeah, at the moment, yes. The title, you have a free window to enter a description wherever you write into whatever you like.
Yeah, because I was thinking about license. Maybe that should be also a required field to be.
Yeah. Yeah, when before using Publix, you have to say yes to general license questions. But yeah, maybe, but that's a good point. We could think about adding a field where
the user gets information
Exactly.
about the copyrights. That's a good point. Yes. Yeah.
And because you're here, maybe I would ask a question for the Electrifier group. Is it possible to export the data in any other format, like RDF, Antalex, Lemon? No?
Yeah, not at the moment. Yeah. So TI like 0. Yeah.
But there is a converter. There is a converter on GitHub repository, I think. ELEXIS GitHub repository converter from TI to Ontalex, right? So what you do is download, convert. No more questions on YouTube. Oh, wait.
Suppose we all start enthusiastically uploading dictionaries to Publix. Will there be any hosting costs?
No, there's a server provided, and you don't need any. Yeah, ELEXIS is paying, I think.
Oh, no.
No, no?
Now ELEXIS is paying. From the 1st of August, CLARIN is paying.
CLARIN, okay.
I have another question because of on Publix, because now what you now do is you have dictionaries, you upload it, and you have a conversion. It's put and hosted on one website. I can imagine institutions having dictionaries, wanting to publish them on their own website instead of a central website, like with their own added styling, etc. Is there open source version of Publix so that you can use the software to publish it on your own website?
Yes and no. There will be the option to build up your own Publix software on your own server, but then it will look similar to it's now. But I think it won't be possible to combine different make the styling with Publix and then integrate it in your own website. I'm not sure about that. But maybe you should ask our technical expert for this, Sandra Weyand. Maybe she can tell you. But it is possible to host Publix on your own server. Yeah, we will provide that.
Yeah, so basically you install the software on INT website and happily do your own stuff. Yeah, that was the question, right? Yeah.
It's a question for you, Simon. The converter you were talking about between TI and Ontalex, is it the same one that John and Laurent developed, or is it? Have you worked on? It's the same. Have you augmented it? Have you worked on it, or it's just the exact same? Okay.
And anybody can improve it.
First, could you elaborate on the ELEXIS data model? And secondly, about the publication, do I understand correctly that Lexonomy has a publication feature, and so does Publix? And are there affinities and differences? How do they work together?
Yeah. So first, I will not elaborate on DMLex because we will have a half an hour tomorrow. So just join us tomorrow. And about the two tools, actually it's true. So we have two tools which do kind of the same thing, but Publix is only for publishing, so it's not for editing. And it's part of the, well, we called it Lex 3 infrastructure. So it's for retro-digitized dictionaries. So basically it's for dictionaries that were on the shelf they were transformed into digital form, and they can be published in a open source software. While Lexonomy is more geared towards born digital dictionaries, and also provides all the stuff that you saw before, the API, the linking, and all the other features. So that's the difference, basically. Anything to add? No? I mean, did I answer? Okay. Electrifier and Publix. Have you already tried to have a non-XML input transformed with Electrifier inserted in Publix? Non-XML input. PDF and inserted in Publix? No.
So the question is if you can upload non-XML data into Publix. No.
So it's XML, but not.
Yeah, the pipeline, yes.
You can have a PDF dictionary that you transform in Electrifier, and then the outputs you can insert it, import it in Publix, but we haven't tried this yet.
We haven't tried this yet.
But it will be interesting to try this, and we will do this before the project ends. So.
Thank you, Carla. Anybody? Uh-huh. So who was first?
I wanted to ask about Publix, first question, and it's very short one. What are the most famous bugs? Because I listened about Electrifier, they were very honest. So please, I would be very interested to listen about this. And another short one about Eddie. I didn't get what kind of corpora do you use? Do you have dictionaries, other dictionaries as a corpus for the dictionary you evaluate? Or you use corpora as corpora, right? So that question was not clear to me. So these are, thank you.
Yeah, first to Publix, the most recent bugs or famous bugs. Yeah, sometimes there are problems with the import. Yeah, you have to store your data in the Git repository, so you have to be careful that you have the right branch and directory and so on. Then the files have to be valid XML, so that's important. Otherwise, the import wouldn't succeed. And then sometimes there are problems, maybe with the annotation. The annotation has to be clean, so and you know to have how your dictionary is annotated, but you can also, there's a progress. You can define some styling rules, and then you look in the preview how the style is implemented, and then you maybe have to get back and change something. And there are sometimes also problems with special characters, especially historical dictionaries have many special characters, or when you have different languages, different characters. And especially when there are non-Unicode characters, you need to have that they can be displayed. And we offer our self-defined non-Unicode characters, which we used for our Trier dictionaries, and you can use them as well. We provide a file with them, but if you have other special characters, you might contact us, and maybe we can find a solution together. I would say that are the most famous bugs or problems using Publix.
So, sorry, probably I didn't explain it well enough. We compare with other dictionaries from the dictionary matrix. So, and the idea is that as the project grows and the database grows, you would have more and more relevant dictionaries to compare with.
Yeah, that was actually my follow-up question, whether you already, so it's a benchmark set rather than, well, you can call it whatever. So the benchmark set, do you already have a benchmark set of dictionaries to start from, or does that have to grow?
Yes, but of course it's not, it really depends on the language, like the size of the dictionaries available to compare with. It really depends on the language and the category. So for
But
some
they
of
have
them,
to, they have gone through the evaluation process by Eddie already, or you just have the metadata about these dictionaries in terms of the categories that you use to evaluate?
they are going currently through the evaluation. So it should be there, but maybe it's not at the moment.
Okay. Yes, Ilan.
Just a follow-up to Lenka then. So it means that Eddie is dynamic in that evaluations are only true for the moment, because you will keep, if you keep getting more dictionaries,
yes,
then the
aggregated
benchmarking
evaluation
would keep changing.
Yes, exactly. So the individual evaluation for a dictionary is static, but then the comparison changes every time you upload a new dictionary. It triggers a change. So
evaluation is true for the moment. I mean, if you're going to evaluate it a few months later,
well, of course, if somebody creates a bigger dictionary of terminological Bulgarian, then yes, yours is not the biggest anymore. So this is changing. This is normal that it keeps changing, right? Comparison.
Well, it's just a way to, you know, to motivate people to upload bigger and bigger dictionaries and better and better. Anybody?
Do you succeed to measure the causelessness of the senses in the different lexicons and dictionary? When you have more than 2 dictionaries and then compare the senses inside, how this can be done in the evaluation too?
So you could only see, for example, one dictionary has more senses per entry than the other one, or this way to compare.
So you can see that there's a dictionary that has no senses and the one that has 10 senses. So this one's the better one.
It's a general question about all the tools and services you're providing. You talked about performance and size. How do you determine what your required maximum level of performance is you can acquire, and how large can a dictionary be, for instance? What if I come up with a WNT and want to put it in Publix, for instance? I probably make the system collapse or something, or not? How do you determine what the level is of performance of your services you will offer, even also after the project?
Yeah. Well, we had problems with ANW. So the system collapsed immediately. I can tell you that. The entries were kind of too big. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So it depends. Well, I'm not the technical person, but it depends on the server, and it depends on the software. So what we have is services that finally collapse if you overuse them. But where is that line? Hard to say.
I can talk for Publix, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, we did some tests. We have several dictionaries on our own, so we tested to import small dictionaries, large dictionaries, and yeah, we suggest to split the files, not only one file per dictionary, but split the dictionary in smaller parts. And I'm not sure, but I think we say, in our user manual, we give a suggestion how big the files should be. I'm not sure. But we tested several dictionaries and file sizes. So yeah, for Publix we can say which sizes it can handle and which not.
We should probably also say that. I don't know, for Lexonomy, Adam, do you know? What would be the...
For Lexonomy, we have imported a few dictionaries with hundreds of thousands entries, and the search may be slower, but the tool works. And we already have, during ELEXIS, we optimized the import process so it's faster. And now we also work on searching to optimize it a bit, but hundreds of thousands entries is all right.
Okay.
I had another question for Eddie or for Lenka, more to the point, about confidentiality. Say I upload my dictionary to Eddie, but it's proprietary data. Am I sure that it will be deleted again from your server? That's one question. And the second question, if I'm ashamed of how my dictionary comes out of the benchmarking, can I opt to sort of leave that information out and say, wow, I don't want my dictionary information to be included?
I can answer that. So we only evaluate open data. Simple as that. But if you want to evaluate your own data, you're free to use the tool. But what's public is only open data. And I will talk about that tomorrow because there's a problem with that. Do you want to add to that?
No, I also think so. It's not published further in any way, but I don't think you can say I don't want to include it in the benchmark. Like once it's there, it affects the average and the statistics. So yeah, it's.
I mean, in a way, it's like you would ask to hide Wikipedia number of entries. So this is what the way we think about it.
I can understand the concept, but if you want to analyze a project in development and you want to just do some numbering and you don't want to make it public, then your advice would be to install the tool at your own service and then do the analysis like that. But then you don't have the data to compare it with.
Okay. The open data. The open data.
So just we have convert, edit, evaluate, and publish. And I understand that we are at the end of the project. But can you say what would be like the most important thing for you, which is still missing in your tool, so that if we, in terms of further development, what would you add to your tool? You know, so that we didn't have time to do it or something in this way. For further development of those tools. All of them, yes. Just one. What they miss still, they would just say that, okay, I have additional finances. Let's say I would develop this one. Yeah.
Line up. Electrifier. So who is that?
Yeah, the first thing that I think we would do if we had the chance would be to add the different export formats like the onto Lex. So this would be, yeah, the first thing on the list.
For Lexonomy, we already changed the user interface, but I guess we would like to change even the editor of entries to be more like for users who are first timers to dictionary editing, like they can start easily.
For EDIs, we are still missing a visual component, so this is something that is still being worked on. And one thing that we wanted to implement, but in the end we didn't, was the option for users to choose and prioritize which metrics are most relevant for them. So this, for now, you get end report, which is everything. And it would be nice if the user could say, okay, I care about this and this and this. So that's something.
Yeah, for Publix, we want to add more functions in the styling rules, that we have more possibilities to style the display. Yeah, and maybe working on the import to make it more easier for the user. Yeah.
Okay. It's almost half an hour after the finish of our session. I would like to stop now if there are no urgent questions and give at least half an hour for people who want to try Electrifier, if I understood correctly. And don't forget, tomorrow at 10 after 8, 15 minutes after 8, we go to Kruska and dinner. Thank you.